coming in.
Nope.
Oh no, it's Christian in front of everything, and I don't know why. Interesting. Let me. he did. But yes, okay. Christian was there. I was like, zoom camera, mess up, all kinds of fun stuff. That was awesome. All right, as you guys can hear but cannot see yet,
Christian was there.
Zoom. Oh no! Now I'm gonna mute you guys because I can double hear myself. As you guys can hear and see at some point, I've got a lot of people with me. But my name's Daniel. Welcome to the short rest. I was getting some feedback, so I just muted everybody real quick. But we're gonna get started. Tonight is the DM roundtable and talking about the end of campaigns, talking about the end of characters, and basically ending those kind of storylines here. So I've got Danny here, we got Christian here, we got Jake here, and myself. We're trying to get Brandon in, but he's around. We'll see if we can get him or not. We'll find out as we get into. Before we get started, I just want to shout out our various partners that we have here. For Nine Realms Gaming. Nine Realms Gaming is a fantastic company. They make high quality tabletop RPGs, accessories like hex dice vaults, dice trays, dice towers, all that kind of stuff. You can use the promo code LIAR10 to get 10% off your purchase at their website over at ninerealmsgaming.com. That's in the chat as well. We've got the new Chaotic Petty emoji for everyone who's at that. I think it's 5,000 bits as a giveaway tier, so we've got that for everyone out there. And then Snonk's got the vampire teeth right now, so if you're a subscriber, you can get access to that. It's adorable. Go check that out. It's amazing because everything with Snonk is adorable. Jake has absolutely lost it with his cat, but you guys can't see that yet. And then, so that's awesome. It was terrific. Oh, we're currently in the midst of a community challenge, right? So once we get to, I think it's 100,000 scrolls, you get those by watching the channel and joining us and contributing things and whatnot. But we're going to be making, once we complete the challenge, we're going to make Fates in Party Twitter accounts. And so what that's going to kind of look like, it's going to be all of our characters, all of the characters who are on Fate's End, on social media, interacting with each other, sharing stuff, retweeting things. We're all doing it in character. It's going to be a lot of fun. Probably a ton of inside jokes. It's going to be hilarious. I had a guess. And we might even talk about what that might look like as we get closer to this. So I think that's all I've got for this particular announcements. Let me go ahead and... let's see. Oh, there's Nine Realms Gaming right there, showing them off. Let me go ahead and bring in our crew, and let's. Oh, I'm gonna have to probably adjust the cameras here a little bit, but we'll figure it all out as we get into it. Let me jump on over here. Oh, that's not the right one. This is the right one. Hello. Oh my gosh, everyone can hear you all now. Welcome, team.
Hello.
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 Is that the turtle again, Christian? I love it.
It is the turtle.
Turtle power.
Turtle
It is
power.
the turtle. I do not have my green screen with me.
You can only see its long neck stretching out behind you.
That's okay. He's there.
So it's just...
Looks weird. We'll say it right now. It looks weird.
Weird. It looks real weird.
I might...
Oh.
You might consider...
We will change out the
consider a
turtle.
change. But hey, you live the life.
There we go.
Okay. Blurred is fine.
That
Probably
turtle
more
is living
appropriate
its
for the
best
other
life.
one. Okay, let's get this started. So, welcome everyone. Tonight like I said, we were talking about all of our D and stuff. So, opening thoughts. What you guys want to talk about? Who wants to kick us off?
I have a question. I've been writing them down, so. So my first question, let's start off with like ending campaigns. So we've ended Iron Valor this week, right? how often do you guys get to end a campaign? Like full-fledged throughout the entire campaign and then a solid ending?
That's a great question. Hey, Christian, why don't you start? You just ended the campaign, right? As
I did just end the campaign.
Yeah. Is that your first one, or you ended many?
That is my first like fully ended campaign. I rarely ever finish them because, you know, schedules and life and stuff like that. But that's okay. I mean, I feel like I'm lucky enough to play a bunch of different characters a year on stage or like in front of the camera and something like that. So although this was my first time finishing a campaign, it was not my first time finishing up telling a story.
Ooh, that's a great point. Quick question. Does it feel the same? Does it feel the same ending at a campaign like this as it feels like, I know you run a production, it goes for however many weeks, you play the character, you know, for however many shows. Is it a similar feeling? Is there a difference there? How does that go?
I think I personally feel like it's kind of the same, but I'm a person that's like, there's always the next character kind of thing. So, I mean, I definitely, don't get me wrong, I get attached to my characters a lot. I mean, I absolutely love Ludin. But if Ludin were to die tomorrow, and I hate to say it, like, it's the same thing as, you know, going and doing another character, like, that I have to do freaking next week. Or the week after. I mean, I get as attached to my characters as I need to be able to tell the story, and sometimes even more so, but at the end of the day, like, after that one's done, if I don't move on into the next character, then they won't get the time of, like, the shining light, or they won't get the respect that they deserve, if that makes sense. So, but I do think that it is kind of the same thing with switching characters each and every week. Although, in D&D, the hard part is you tend to play these types of characters a lot longer than you play in, say, a film or a play or something like that, unless you're like on like a tour or something like that for a really long time. So you do get a little bit more attached than you would with your average play. But at the end of the day, I think it's kind of the same feeling.
I found that I rarely get to end campaigns or stories. I think precisely to what you were saying, Christian, of just run out of time, or if I'm the one running them, that I didn't set an endpoint. I didn't know where it was going to end. And so it sort of just ends whenever everyone gets really busy. And I think it tends to feel for me, and now I'm trying to set endpoints to campaigns more often, because when they just kind of fizzle out, I always feel a little bit like, that wasn't that great. You know, I didn't feel that reward at the end.
I have a similar situation. Of course, not necessarily. So I've ended a bunch of campaigns, right? And definitely like ending stories too, because when we first started Iron Valor, they were one shots, and sometimes we would make them 2 shots and things like that. So I don't really count those as full-fledged campaigns. That they are just kind of like ending stories. So you definitely don't get as attached to them, right? You definitely don't get attached to the characters. And then, but then we ran several short-term campaigns, and I've ended a bunch that way. And then, but as far as long-term stuff, I've run into the situation where everybody's lives were getting busy and we had to wrap it up. So like, we would end the campaign, but it'd be like we knew it was ending, so we'd wrap it up in the last 3 or 4, like last 2 or 3 sessions we'd kind of commit to, and those would always get spread out over several weeks. But then we'd wrap up the storylines we had and try to give the characters a cool send-off. We actually did something really interesting the other night. So we were I had the first campaign that I ever ran was a homebrew campaign in Arroya. It's the one where we developed everything that was Stargazer's Guide, right? That original campaign, it was like me, myself, Lauren, a bunch of the guys from Valor House, and all those people. So, but that campaign actually didn't end because we started streaming on Twitch, and so there was an ending that was like that I had planned, but that campaign had gone from like 1 to 17. And so basically what happened was we took everyone there that was a part, as many people as we could that were part of that original group, and we did a one shot to basically end and like summarize everything that happened in that campaign. We had the final fight that I'd always imagined we'd eventually get to, and it was just this huge, massive, it took like 6 hours. Like we played in person just to end the campaign. It was super fun and really satisfying, honestly. What about you, Danny?
I also very rarely get to finish campaigns, and I think that's a pretty common theme throughout for a lot of people, especially like real life campaigns, because people are busy, people, are constantly going out or have work or have other responsibilities. So that's kind of why I appreciate like the streaming aspect, is because it's almost like an added pressure and like an added obligation. And it's like people are watching, people are waiting and want to see this story with you. And so it kind of, I think, makes people show up. And I think in the end, people will love to show up. They don't regret it. But I think especially like we've learned, Christian's making me laugh, especially during like COVID, like people kind of withdraw inside themselves and sometimes cancel plans. And are almost hesitant to go out and do things when they're not like made to. I know that sounds weird, and so I think with a lot of D&D campaigns, it is hard to get people together every week, especially if it's a weekly campaign. So hard to get people together because it's usually like a dynamic of like a group of 5 to 6 people maybe, and then like one is always missing. 1 or 2 are those people that are like, I can't make it this week, guys, and you're like, of course you can. But it's always so like amazing when they do end up finishing. Like, I guess that leads into my next question, which is, do you dread the ending of a campaign? Do you ever like dread it? Personally, for me, I sometimes dread the thought of not being able to play in that world anymore or play that character. But also, like in the end, I feel like having an ending is so much better than leaving it hanging.
I don't think I dread an ending of a campaign personally. As long as the story that we told was just like absolutely amazing. There's some moments that only happen in D&D. I think that and being able to start over and tell a whole new story with whole new like characters and stuff like that and create whole new dynamics. I feel like the more stories I tell, like it, I just feel like at the end of the campaign, especially if like you've played this character for such a long time, I feel like at certain points you're like, dang, I really love this character, but at the same time, like, I'm looking over and I see somebody else with this amazing spell that I would have done something totally different with, and I promise you would be way better. But I have to wait till this campaign's over. I still have to give this character its due. But after this character is done, oh my god, I'm gonna show them how that spell is supposed to be taken, like, it's supposed to be done. And I feel like that that's where I feel I would enjoy, like, with ending campaigns. I don't want them rushed. Don't get me wrong, I don't want them rushed, and I want a complete story, but I don't think I dread it as much, as long as the story's good. If it's been rushed, it can kind of suck.
Now we all know what Christian thinks of all the spellcasters and Fates.
Right? Like, he just
no,
he called
I
all
still
of you guys out.
I promise you guys, Luden is still being made. After last episode, oh no, we have so much journey to have with Luden. I'm not thinking about any new campaign.
Maybe Daniel will empathize with this for sure by doing your first adventure in Aurora. Now we're doing the Fate's End one too. Mm-hmm. I think as a GM, when I'm a player, I love when stories come to a close. I like the ability to, at times, just say, okay, for the rest of their life, they go and live on a farm and they're good. And they lived a happy life, right? Or they die 2 months later and it's tragic, right? Getting to end that story is exciting. Because you usually, and I'm seeing in the chat, right, they mostly fizzle out. So that moment of resolution is only yours. As a GM, I think the thing that's helped me because I get nervous as a GM when stories are going to end because I want them to feel fulfilling. and something that's helped me is continuing the next campaign in the same world, but different time period. Because that grants me the ability to let these players impact the world permanently, right? They lived somewhere. And so their story persists there, and now I get to kind of see what happened somewhere else or during a different time.
Yeah, I think there are several AU versions of Aurora running around right now, because like I've run games in Aurora and Lauren runs games in Aurora, and we've run them both on stream and off stream, and there's just all these alternate timelines and so, like, it's like, well, how does that match up with this? I'm usually just like, this is after that, or this is before that. Like whichever one is most appropriate for that moment. Like, yeah, no, that's not how that happened. Not this time. Yeah, I think I kind of agree with Reina over here. Like when characters, I want my character to have a good ending, and like I never dread the ending of a campaign. Not for me personally. I would rather, any ending is always better than no ending, right? Because if you have no ending, like you have no closure, and like I would prefer my character die in combat than not get an ending of any kind. Like I'd always prefer that. And I've only had 2 characters die ever, I think. One of them was in a one shot, and then one of them was in a game Lauren was running with the Soggy Bottom Boys. Poor Gideon died, and Gideon died in such a way that it was kind of like, it wasn't in like a heroic fight. It was in like a half fight, like he just bad rolls and he just got swarmed. And so I almost brought Gideon back for Fate's End. I was like, I'm gonna revive Gideon and retell his story. Like that's what I thought. But for characters, like I'm almost always ready to let go of a character. Like almost always, I'm ready to move on and play someone else. If I've played them for any length of time, I'm like, all right, I've done this for a while. I've told whatever story I'm going to tell, and I'm like, that's it for me.
How long does that usually take for you to like really be like done with a character?
I can be done playing a character after like 12 sessions. Like really quickly. Like yeah, like so, and I think part of that's like I think that's the DM in me, right? Because like I don't want an NPC to hang out for longer than a dozen sessions. Yeah, Randy's right. Seems to live forever. All right, cool. He's gonna be in every campaign. I just play him forever. No, like I think that's the DM in me. Like I don't want a character to stay around forever. I wanna get their story out there and tell it and see how it changes them, and then I just don't think that I don't want to take up so much space in the story, because I don't want a character to stay stagnant, because if the character turns stagnant, I'm no longer interested. But I don't want to take up so much space in the story that they grow the entire time, because everyone else needs to grow and everyone else needs to take their story, and I want to be a part of their stories, right? But I don't want to tell my own anymore. And so for me, I'm just like, Samson's a little different because I set out to make him a longer form character, but most of the time it's like 12 to 15 sessions, I'm like, I'm done. Maybe that's me.
I want to just ask a question to all three of you on this point of particularly when characters end. I've encountered a lot of players, and I've been changing this for myself, but I've encountered a lot of players that have a sort of a stance of, when my story is complete, the character should leave and I should make a new character. And I'm been leaning more into the camp that I actually think it's harder to play a character who's done. Like, saved the person, found their relic, and now they're just chilling with the party. and they're like stable. You know what I mean? And Daniel, I think you might be saying the inverse of what I'm saying here, potentially. But I find, for me, I'm intrigued by what you would all think about if your Fate's End characters, let's say, finished their arc. Would you be interested in having them hang out in the party?
Danny has so much to say about this.
I have opinions about this. Okay. I think Daniel's actually on the same page as you are, Jake, more or less. I actually disagree with that. I think that, well, I don't disagree with it. It might be difficult to play the character afterwards, but I think that it's so important when your character's story or arc is done to still remain with the party, because your character has an influence with the party, right? So, for instance, playing Finn, when I move into Finn's arc a little bit heavier, I would love the party to still be there to experience that with him, because they know Finn. Up to this point, they're his friend. They've seen all sorts of different sides of him. So I feel like that would affect them more than just bringing a new character in. And I think especially as players, finding that balance of like lifting up your fellow players, but also taking time is really important. And I think that you can just be just as effective playing up your fellow players and, you know, helping to create that scene for them. So I am adamant against like, I'm done with my character, bye, because I think that is actually more, almost, I don't want to say selfish, but it's more like, it's just more selfish. I'm going to go there.
I would like to just clarify. I think when I'm saying like, I think what I've seen is that it's harder for people to enter into a role as a cheerleading character, a supporter character, without their own like driving narrative to give them purpose and intention. And I think that is a fun challenge to take on, is when you get to finish your character's arc and go, all right, let me back up all you all, because like, I'm good, I'm done.
Yeah.
I've got my castle, you know?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it also depends on how the story is told, right? So I feel like in Fate's End, Ermir's story got hit quite hard in the beginning and then continued throughout. But I think all of our story arcs are kind of being thrown in sporadically, so it's a little easier, I think, to shift in and out of that role throughout the game. I know some people like to DM having like one arc and then one arc and then one arc and then one arc, and that, yeah, I think that would be a little more challenging. But
I feel like if Lauren's watching right now, she knows I just write a huge backstory to where my character's gonna be there regardless, because the DM's gonna have to figure out, like, I will put so many freaking plot holes and crap in there for like. So those that don't know, my backstory for Luden's 8 pages long, single space. Lauren has woven it in there gorgeously, and the only way, like, as I was like, I have no idea how she's gonna do this, but she could throw stuff in there whenever she wants to. We don't even have to finish the whole thing if we don't have to, because at the very end, I could be like, and he's still looking for his dad, like if I needed to, and then I could bring Luden back if I wanted to. But I mean, like, it's still satisfying an ending because we told this story together. I don't think that I have to tell an character's full life story in a campaign, personally. Unless they're, like, really old and about to die and this is their last hurrah. Well, then they better die at the last episode. I'm completely fine with that. But that's my personal take on it. If I'm playing a character and I ask, how long are we trying to go with this campaign? I will write a story that fits long enough for that campaign, so that my character could stick around if he needs to, or they need to, from beginning to end. That's my approach to
definitely
making the DM's life very difficult.
Yeah, I think that does. I think that, like, so I think there's lots of good reasons for characters to stay around after their arc's complete. Like, especially when it comes to what you're saying, Danny, about influence and like being a part of other people's stories. Because inevitably, through collaborative storytelling, you get involved, right? So, like Finn is now intricately involved in Luden's backstory. Now, like, their stories are interwoven in a way that you could go the rest of the time without, like, those characters are now inseparable. Good or bad. I don't know if they're enemies or if they're friends or if they're whatever, but they're now inseparable. Like, and the same things happen to Esprit, Samson, and Prearia. Like their stories are interwoven now, and like Samson can hang out and be a part and be a part of like part of their storylines, like and be. But as far as like story goes and campaign goes, like he can hang out the whole time. I don't know how anyone writes an 8-page backstory ever. I think my backstory that like I gave to Lauren is like, it's like 2 sentences. That's like, okay, Samson was kicked out of the Feywild, Samir is his friend, Elrix is his bad, and then it's a bunch of bullet points, and it's stuff like, if Samson was a car, he'd be a 1969 Chevy, but it's broken, and like the headlights busted. And then it's like, if he was a rock song, he'd be this, or like all this other stuff. And it's like, it's just a bunch of comparisons, and that's the whole backstory. But yeah, I think there's lots of reasons to stay in a party, and you can definitely be a part of everybody. Yes, McBluff, you could always ask questions. Every single time, no matter what, everyone should ask questions. But yeah, but I guess like as far as like when I'm done with a character, right? I guess I'm referring to their development, right? Not necessarily plot. Like I want the characters to develop into who they're gonna be for the remainder of the story. Like they started somewhere, and I want them to move through a couple areas, and then I want to get them to where I wanted them to be. And usually I can do that in the first dozen and a half, like three months in a weekly campaign, right? And then for future, and then everything else is going to affect them, or it might affect their character, but I don't think it's going to like change who the character is. That's just me.
No, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, the reason I write the long backstory is specifically for that reason. I never want him to stop growing. I never want him to fizzle out. I wanted him to have this drastic change that I could literally plot if I like just drew a giant arc across a piece of paper where Ludin was. I had no idea where that was going to go. I had no idea how he was going to change throughout the story, but I was just excited to be able to start at one point and know for sure by the end of this whole thing he will have reached this whole other conclusion point. And if I were to draw an arc, I could literally kind of plot out by episode how he got from point A to point B.
So let's talk about character arcs, and let's talk about characters from beginning to end. Like the characters that you played, who's your favorite? Like, what's your favorite character that you played from start to beginning? And like, Christian, I want you to talk about Big Thick specifically, since that campaign just ended. Tell us about Big Thick and how he progressed from the beginning of the campaign to the end of the campaign, and how that worked out for you. So, because since that campaign just ended and everybody saw it and we're all being a part of it, so tell me about Big Thick and that character development, how you felt about it.
All right, so those that don't know, Big Thick Applebottom was a half-orc dad. I knew that the story wasn't going to be long, so I made him have a super simple backstory, a reason why he was there. Brandon asked us to have, if we could somehow weave, like, kind of have some characters know each other at the top. So I was like, okay, well, why would Big Thick be there? It's a library. And I was like, okay, so he's just going there to get a book for his daughter. It's really simple. It doesn't take much more. And then I just added a little splash of like, okay, but how does he even know how to fight? So I was like, okay, so he's a warrior. He's old now. He was going from this. He was this awesome warrior back during the war days, but he got old, and everybody saw him as like this half-orc brute. And instead of being a half-orc brute his whole life, now he's like trying to fake being of establishment. And his daughter's doing well in school. She's the apple of his eye. Ha ha ha. And as she progresses, I mean, like, there's a possibility that she can lift our name out of this, like, rut of being just a bunch of brutes and war-torn, like, family and all that stuff. So this book becomes, like, this super important thing for me. So he comes in kind of whimsical, still has that background to him. And Brendan didn't really tell us how much was going to be going on with Candlekeep. He was just like, you guys are going to be going into books. There's going to be factions. we're going to go from there. And so once we started to go more and more, it was more of a sense of, from the beginning of the arc to the end of the arc, I mean, Applebottom still has the kind of one goal of get the book for my daughter, but also the sense of, okay, so this dude is entrapping very smart people. In my eyes, my daughter is the smartest person and the most important person that I have. So if she ever becomes as smart as some of these people that he's trapping in these books, then I'm not just defending anybody in Candlekeep. I've connected myself in a sense of, I'm defending my daughter from a possible future threat. And the fact that Brandon kept us in the library kind of forced Gregory to not just change his ideals towards these other people that are with him, because he's like, my daughter's the only person that like I care about like immensely enough to like really be wanted to save. I really don't care about y'all, but it changes each and every time that they save my life or he saves their life, that okay, we're not only friends, but all of you are helping defend my daughter as well. So it kind of opens him up to be a little bit more social, to not have to feel like he has to put on this facade to be this the not Applebottom murderer or whatever that he was in the previous wars, but this giant arc of him finding more friendship, him finding a bigger purpose than just, you know, his daughter, but and also like having a reason to defend all the other people that are there, as well as having Abigail, like being friends with my daughter and being in the same school and the PTO stuff, like all those little dashes of things just help be able to ground him in that story. But so his arc went from, caring for himself to caring for these other people. I hope that it answered the question. It was a lot of ramblings.
I thought it was great. I loved it.
On point. The story of Big Thick, baby.
What about you two?
What a name. I love that name. I was not ready for that. I think I can maybe answer marginally quick, and this might go into McLuff's question, and so we can return to it potentially, but I also want to hear from Danny. I've started crafting most of my characters with this premise that I've read about called The Lie That You Believe. And I think it's something that I think we do as people, which is we tell ourselves lies, that we are very true to ourselves, right? They might be anything from, I don't think I can get this job, right? It could be a really small scale one to really deep-seated ones like, I don't think that I can have a lot of friends, right? That could be a really powerful one. And so I craft my characters with really small to large and deep running lies. And then when I play the game, my characters' motivations are often trying to figure out if there are answers to those, right? Based from the players or the interactions with the world and the GM. They're looking for those answers. And what's scary and fun for me is that sometimes either they counter the lie, right? The lie gets dismissed and they kind of heal and grow to be better, or the lie gets doubled down on and they're taught something worse about, like they further believe in the thing about themselves. And so the character like Ellie Wiley from the Through the Breach campaign, she was this bounty hunter woman, and she sent all her money home to her family. And so her two core lies that she was struggling with was, can I be a good person if I also am a bounty hunter? She doesn't really know. It's a question for her, and she kind of thinks like, no. And then two, my family back home cannot survive without me. I have to keep doing this to provide for them, right? So she's kind of telling herself these things, and the party sort of pushes back as she reveals them more and more. And that's how I generally build characters now, is what they think they want versus what in reality they need.
Is Ellie Wiley your favorite character, Jake?
Second, there's a different one in a different campaign who has gone through a similar, they're very similar characters. The other character with a somewhat tragic backstory was that she basically her brother died of an accident, and he was a paladin and she was a wizard. And then she was like, okay, he died and I was part of it. I'm gonna be him. And she started being a paladin. And so I built a class that was half portent wizard, diviner wizard, and half paladin. And I wasn't a good class. Like, all of the players at some point kept going, why are you a paladin? And she was very much struggling with how does she be herself and not who she thinks people thought her brother was, right? And so that was something that she really struggled with. So that was probably one of my favorite characters, because she was really nuanced, and as the story ended, she was just coming into her own. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so the question is the development process. How do we develop characters, or how do we build them? I kind of lost the question.
The question is, what's your favorite character, and can you talk us through your favorite character, and what was the arc they kind of went on, and what'd you like the most about it, kind of thing?
Oh, okay. So I have two that I can think off the top of my head. First one being, for nostalgia reasons, like my very first D&D character, right? So her name was Akantha, and she was a tiefling paladin. So the way I built her and the way I developed her arc is I knew the plot line first. So the DM gave us the plot line, which was it was very, very basic. It was like Red Dragon is controlling armies and the forest is being destroyed. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll make her like really into nature and trying to protect nature. And I think at the time it was 4E. So her god was like Melora, which was the god of the sea and the forest. Mm-hmm. And so her arc kind of became trying to stop that. It was a very, very basic, like, just adventuring plot line. Still a lot of fun, but I think it's a lot easier to... Okay, so my second favorite character is Finn. And the reason it is Finn is because I took a completely different approach with him. Because normally I do develop my characters with kind of the plot line in mind, and then I try and like shape them for the story. Whereas with Finn was a very open character. I basically designed him to where he decided to leave and go out into the world and experience whatever Lauren threw at us. And so his arc obviously is still developing, but I try as I play to keep open to everything that gets thrown our way. It's my favorite way to play so far. It's so fun. I love the yes and concept of just being like, let's do it, let's see what happens. And he has that kind of personality too, so it works really well. Yeah, I know. And it works really well for our party too, because like most of our party is like, no, we're not doing that. It's like, yes, we're totally doing that.
Not enough of our party is like, no, we're not doing that.
Finn's always saying yes. Samson's always saying yes. Luda and Esprace are saying no to everything all the time.
So his character arc is literally always changing, because I literally came into it with, I mean, I'm not going to spoil anything, but very, very, very light background for that reason, because I wanted to make him a character as I played him. Yeah, so I really like that. I enjoy that a lot. Let's do Mac's question. Oh, and guess who is in the waiting room? Guess who's waiting for us?
Is Brandon there?
Brandon has arrived. You'll bear with me with the camera stuff for just a second, but we're gonna bring in your boy,
our celebrity guest.
And then we can take on Mac's question as well. I feel like.
And I will also I will kind of say real quick, y'all, one of my favorite characters I've ever played. His name was Dan Smith. He was a classless human janitor.
Hell yeah.
He wasn't even supposed to be on the mission. He found a letter meant for somebody else, showed up there, and he the DM at the time made us roll for like how we looked, and he actually rolled a 10. It was amazing. He was the most average dude there ever was, and he fought with soap and a mop, and I love Dan Smith. He died. He died. At like level 5, he died, but I loved Dan Smith.
Hey, he got pretty far. Level 5.
There's something to be said about playing underdogs, right? Like characters who you're just like, you're not that good, But when you succeed, you're just like, yes, you're so cool.
He would throw soap, and oftentimes, like, the other party members just look at me and be like, "That's not gonna work." I'd be like, "Watch." Inevitably, somebody would roll in that one, and they would slip on the soap, fall down on their butts, and they'd be prone for like the next round. Love Dan Smith.
While Daniel is messing with the cameras, maybe we can start Mac's question. And I'll read it out loud here. And Mac, it looks like sort of at the bottom is the core of the question, but I'm going to do the context. I'm also watching a cat that I'm cat sitting doing something problematic. So I'm going to read this and then maybe walk away for a second. The cat is clearly encountering something, and we're going to find out what that is. Earlier, it stole chicken from my pasta, and I was very annoyed with it.
Oh, I thought this was about to become like a haunted.
Oh, no. Yeah, no. That was a different day. So Mac's question is, so it's a bit strange, but how do you approach characters in the terms of ending in general? Not just campaign endings, but also arc endings, things like that. Because PCs are often crafted to fit a storytelling orientation wherein they have goals and beliefs, and once these goals are met and the beliefs are challenged / fortified, their story will conclude. But have you ever approached a character less with an attitude of their story is meant to be fulfilled?
Jeez, Mac, it's every time. All right, let's see. Have you ever?
Sorry, say that last part again.
Yeah, have you ever approached a character less with an attitude of their story is meant to be fulfilled? So maybe the idea that this rings to me a little bit of like maybe where Finn is where I'm kind of touching onto this. Like somebody who's coming into the world, or characters, like you're just ready to yes and everything.
Yeah, I think it's always good to go into a story with your general, mainly personality and beliefs and things like that. But yes, so I think this has become less prominent as the story goes on, because as the story goes on, the plot line develops and your character becomes attached to people, to, goals. But yeah, that was the original intention with Finn, was to create him and have him experience everything. But I mean, and now his goals have to be fulfilled because he has a ton of them now, which happened and they were built in the story.
Yeah, I kind of very much feel what McBluff's trying to get at here, which is like, because you have a character that comes in that like has all of its beliefs, it has tenets like Esperis does, right? 'Cause she's like a servant of Remblace, and Remblace told them what to do, kind of like Finn's, very much like Finn is, like, oh, like Levi tells me what to do, whatever, and then once those things get challenged or reinforced or whatever, that's how the character develops. But I often make characters that are really more like it's more like a vibe, right, than it is an actual like, here's how the character is going to work, or here's what I'm going to do with this character. It's like, this character is like I said, I was telling the story earlier, like Samson is a type of car. Samson is a song. Samson is a environment. He's a scene in a movie. Like, this is the vibe I want them to have. This is the attitude I want them to start with. And then I never know where they're going to go. Like, where they end up is never where I wanted them to, because I didn't want them to go anywhere. I just wanted them to be. And so I hardly ever... I saw where Raina was talking about, like, I have something... Raina says that she wants her characters to have somewhere they heal from, or something was around, or they're dealing with a particular type of thing. I usually don't do that. I know a lot of people do. Like, they take their experience, they say, all right, I'm going to play this game, and I'm going to try to, I'm going to try to dive into this particular feeling, or I feel these things, and I want to explore this. I usually don't do that. I usually just say, hey, let me make this person and see what things are going to happen to it. They have a final end goal, but they're just a vibe, and then what do they turn into?
This is a difficult one. I think I can go in either direction. What I usually focus on with my characters are their relationships with the other party members. So the way I play D&D is kind of the way that one of the tenets that I was taught whenever I play another character that's like not on D&D, but in the sense of you need to always be in your character's corner because you're the only one that's going to be able to defend your character. You're going to be able to defend your character the best. So that being said, I like to have my characters challenged on their beliefs in general so that they can grow to be whatever they're going to be, because I have no idea where Ludin's going to... like I said, I had no idea where he was going to be at the beginning. I didn't really think... I didn't have an idea of where Big Thick was going to go. It was like... It all depends on the way that the interactions with the other characters go. More so than a final end goal, in my opinion. I think that it's important to have your character have a goal, so that you can have something to work towards with everyone else or by yourself or whatever. But I don't see... I feel like you know when when the character's story's over. I personally don't think that it should be at this point, we've reached the end of their story. Like they've set out, oh, we finally got this last little piece of whatever, or I finally got whoever I was looking for. That's the end of my story. Because in my personal opinion, if you haven't been creating conflict with the other party members, or there hasn't been conflict going towards you guys altogether, then your party's probably a tiny bit boring, or you guys have gone through a lot. So you can have been playing that character like more than once or something like that, and that's different. But I personally like to see not a ton of inter-party conflict, but I mean, being able to bounce off of each other and not everybody agreeing on the exact same things, because that's the morality questions that can come into play, and those are like the best conversations to have between characters. Personally.
Yeah. I like where Christian and Daniel are kind of going with this, where y'all's heads are at. This is kind of how I feel about it too, because especially Christian, what you're saying with like dealing with everyone in the party, because that's the cool thing about D&D, right? Is that it's not just your story. You're also a player in everyone else's story in the party. So a lot of the times, like, it's not just your story that's being juggled. You know what I'm saying? So like you said, even when you know, like, there are those times, especially like with Urmir, when you know, like, the story just kind of naturally comes to a conclusion and it makes no more sense for that particular thread to continue. But there are those cases where, like, you know, your character may have created a strong bond with someone in the party, or, you know, with something, or maybe your character had a very strong reaction to, you know, an enemy that was actually an enemy of another player, and so, you know, you decide that you want to hop into that story a little bit more. Like, I think that's the cool thing about D&D, is that you get to make those decisions in game, and it kind of takes your character, like, it like, you know, no one likes to be railroaded, but it kind of keeps you from railroading yourself, because you can, you know, make those decisions and take that character in those different directions that you might not even considered when you're, you know, making up the character sheet.
All right, we got two questions in the chat. Let's start with Hello Love Doves. So let's start with Hello Love Doves. So Raina asks, 2 questions. Do you like working on one-shots or whole campaigns more? And then completely unrelated, are you an outline person when you write papers, or are not? Just start writing it and see where it goes. I'm going to start with this because I feel very strongly about this. I have major opinions, okay? Number one, I prefer campaigns because they're more fun to me. I think they're great. One-shots are fun, but they're so quick and simple that they're not hard. They're just really like, oh, this is what's going to happen. That's pretty much what the story's going to be. You don't have to, you know, let other people, like, the players don't have as much control, and it doesn't have to adapt. So I prefer campaigns. Strong feelings on outlines, though. If it is and I feel both ways, nonfiction must have an outline, and it must be well organized. I'm talking like number 1, here's my top introduction. Here are the 3 points for this. Number 2, here's my introduction. Here's my 3 points with my references. Number 3, all the way through, however long the paper needs to be. Nonfiction, always. Like fiction, creative writing, never. No outlines, ever. And I think it hurts to do so. Strong opinions will not be changed. I am a rock on this island. Everyone can fight me.
And if you're shorter, you're going to lose.
Yeah, what's up? It's like, how tall are you? Okay.
I would say I enjoy campaign more too. I'm really into world building, and I like dropping little Easter eggs and stuff in for my players, and I like to reward them for exploring things and stuff like that. And all of that is just more facilitated by a campaign. I feel like you said, one shots are way too quick. And yeah, I just, I just like the time to tell a huge, sprawling, crazy epic story with a bunch of really awesome moments. As far as outlines go, I'm not as against it as Daniel is when it comes to fiction and stuff. I think like a little, I just need to know my start point and my end point. And like what I do is like I'll call it like the Dora the Explorer version of outlines. Everyone's seen Dora. She has a start goal and goal and like 3 different little midpoints, right? And you go from wherever you start to like over the bridge, through the woods and then up the mountain or some shit. And so that's kind of how I structure my games a lot of the times, is like I'll have a beginning point and then I'll have a midpoint that I need to get them to, and then I will have the final encounter. But that's it though. I'll have the skeleton, and it's up to my players to put like the meat and the skin and all of the stuff onto the skeleton to create an entire like person of a story, if that makes sense.
I also enjoy campaigns. I think one-shots are great though. Like I'm gonna be that guy that just won't choose, and that might be that criminal justice in me. But like, yeah, some one-shots are some of the most fun games I've ever played of D&D in my life. Like specifically Quadcopter, holy crap, cannot wait for Quadcopter 2. Like that just whole campaign, it was so wild. And that whole one-shot was just so wild that some of them are like just gems that you can never replace, even with some of the best campaigns. But at the same time, a campaign does give me a little bit more satisfaction. I like to say that Fate's End is my vacation once a week, because I haven't taken vacation in I don't know how many years, like a true vacation. But Fate's End is my quick vacation on Mondays every week. And without it, it helps keep me grounded in the COVID world that is just work and home. So I very much enjoy campaigns. In terms of papers, so I've been forced to write outlines before, but what I usually do is kind of the way I choreograph fights. I have this one cool move that I see in my head that I'm going to do. I have no idea how we're going to get there, but I know I need to be able to do this one cool move. So we're going to start at a normal place, and we're just going to start typing, and then once some ideas start to coalesce, then we might start getting back to that outline. But as long as I get to that one cool move, or this one little transition or whatever, and I can make that like shine the absolute freaking most, then I'm fine. Most of the time it's pretty easy to just BS something, especially for like some English teachers or something like that. You just write like they want you to write and you'll be fine. Do whatever they tell you to do, get the grade, be done with it. But as long as I get that one little piece of my own personality in there with the one thing that I was trying to do, then I was always fine. So, for instance, with Big Thick, it was the one thing with the teleportation, throw my sword, and teleport to it and stab somebody. Wanted to do that
the whole
every
time.
bit of the entire time.
It's like, all right.
Finally able to do it episode like 12 or 13, something like episode 13 or 14.
14, I think it was.
Yeah, 14. That was it. That was the only time that I was able to do it. That one moment made playing that entire character worth it. because I can tell that story.
Kristen's like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna teleport somebody and stab him. I don't care what happens.
Yep. After I did that, his story could have ended there. Let me put it that way. He could have died right there, and I would have been like, at least that did my thing. I'm completely fine.
Phew.
Okay. Let's see. I like campaigns more, just like everyone else. It gives you time to kind of develop the NPCs, the characters, the world. I do think there is something to be said, though, about short stories and one-shots. They're particularly powerful when they're done well. And weirdly enough, I like one-shots within campaigns. So like for campaigns, I like long stretches of story, but one-shots where maybe somebody else DMs for a one-shot, or maybe just like an off-the-road sort of adventure. I think those are fun to implement as well. As far as outlines go, I'm with Daniel on this one. I think if it's like a paper, it needs to be outlined because you need to know what you're saying. You need to know what you're saying. If it's fiction, I'm usually the type as well to be like, let's just see where it goes and just start writing. And I think eventually when you get further into the story, you need to have some kind of outline because you need to be consistent. For campaigns, I have outlines, but they're like lists of characters, lists of worlds, lists of places. You know, it's not just like, it's not too strict because you obviously have to expect your players to completely go off the road and do something you weren't expecting. And then what? Then you just got to move everything over, I guess.
I'll try to answer quickly because for the other questions we have out here too. I see I like campaigns. I like one shots, right? I see them as two different beasts. A one shot, you don't have room if you're a GM to make mistakes. You have to kind of think about how all the things are going to work together because you have 4 hours. You have 3 hours. You need that pacing to be on point, and everything has to have a purpose. There can't be kind of throwaway situations because it's one time that you get it. I really love what Danny says. I like one-shots and campaigns. I think that like the start of campaigns are generally just a string of one-shots until like that nemesis or through line of a story begins. That's what I've seen. College, or like any paper that I write, I definitely have sometimes outlines, not very detailed ones. And most of the time when I write anything that's fiction, it's question based. I usually, like if I have a campaign, my sessions usually start with a question. Will the party do X? Or will the party successfully stop the villain, right? Or will the party find the item? And then that gives me room to have both a yes and a no, and know how those both could shake out. I also agree with the fact that you can usually write most papers to whatever your instructor wants them to be, and they'll love that, and then you don't have to do much more.
No.
Sounds like y'all are writing bad papers. That's what I'm hearing.
We are
I
writing
can send you one of
papers, my friend.
I'll send you some of my papers, bro. They were golden.
They
show them as examples.
Look,
That's
our
right.
resident English major, okay. I think y'all just all write bad papers.
Hey, criminal justice major, I had to write them papers too, man.
Resident English major as well. I'll just say right now, I think in college, I spend too much time thinking about punny titles. And that was a mistake. I will admit that now. Bad move.
I was always that English student that wanted to go against the grain and write something like, I think this is what they mean in the story. And the teacher's like, absolutely not. That's not what we talked about in class.
All right. Okay. So Danielle Lenoir has a question. Let's see. As a GM, how do you find an ending for your campaign? Do you plan an endpoint from the very beginning? Do you find it partway through the process? How much does the endpoint change as you play? This is a fantastic question. Brandon, you can go first as the one who just ended a campaign.
Awesome. I was gonna say. So yeah. I guess I'll piggyback off of my last answer. Like I said, I'll do like I always have an endpoint in mind, but it's never like an ending. I will have a climax in mind. I will have like that one final confrontation. I will have like the story has been leading up to this. Like I was telling everybody in Candlekeep after the game was over, like the fight in the library, at the very end, I actually found the map. Like it was like the third session we played. I found the map while I was looking for like different libraries and stuff. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, this is where my last fight has to take place. Holy crap, look at this place. And it wasn't so much about like, I have to build my story to get to this point. It was just like, I just know that's where it's going to be. And so maybe like, it's not one big shift to like, okay, let everything lead to this point, but it'll be like, little micro adjustments that you make across the entire campaign to be like, this is where it's going to end, because you already have that point in mind, but you still give the characters freedom to like make choices that influence other parts of the story, or maybe like they'll make a decision to go get a thing and maybe that thing will be in the place where I want it to be, so I'll always have like that endpoint in mind, but how you get there is anybody's guess. That's what I leave up to the players. It's just, that sort of stuff.
I'm sort of right there with you in the terms of like, I think of like where that climax is going to be, and then we'll see how it gets there. Just very briefly, I do a design structure for campaigns that's villain centric. I kind of determine who the villain is going to be, and then I lay out how they can win the game. And then when I have that plan, no matter what the party does, they'll always sort of come in conflict with the villain. And then it will kind of be a binary of yes or no. Does the party impede the villain's overarching goals or not? And if they don't, if the party just goes and does their own thing, the villain will progressively get closer and closer to winning, and therefore applying more pressure to force the party back to them. And so that's sort of how I think about it, and I get to that. I've done that with maps, Brandon, where I just see a map and I go, well, that's it. There's the end. That has to be it, you know?
That's interesting. Letting the players operate independently of the villain like that.
Yeah, so keep in mind, I haven't had much DM experience and GM experience in general, but that is some of the ways that I have had with other DMs in the past. They're like, yo, do whatever you want. But the funny thing about it is, like, with this specific GM, what he would do is he'd just roll dice in front of us, like, while we're talking, especially if we're taking a lot of time, and he's just rolling dice. He'd be like, ooh, and he's just writing stuff down, and he won't tell us what he's written down until, like, later on, like, literally, it can be 5 sessions later. And we'll be saying something, and we'll finally have defeated that part or something like that. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, those people were like 3 levels higher because y'all were talking this entire time. I was rolling. They rolled like 4 nat 20s. They did this thing over here, and they got all this XP. And y'all got to be better next time if you don't want this to be happening. And we're just sitting there like, God dang it, we need to focus. But I do love the idea of, in terms of the endings, having the players kind of decide where that ending's going to be. But I think my favorite style is always the fluid ending, personally, because there are some times where, like, for instance, if one character goes down, like, really bad, or something awful happens, and they're, like, feeble mind, for instance, for, like, a month or something like that, I don't think that you personally need to penalize your players because they were well enough into the story, or they RP'd enough, or did something X, Y, and Z. Like, they played they did what they were supposed to do. I don't think that you should impede your players or punish your players because they were doing what they were supposed to do, and you just didn't expect them to do that, if that makes sense. So I'm a fan of more of a fluid ending. Like, I have a general idea, this gray area of where I want it to be, and as the party gets closer and closer and levels up and more, it becomes more into focus. And as they get further away from it, by doing things that they're supposed to do, it's okay if it gets a little fuzzy again.
I usually like to present a choice at the end that branches off into a couple different possible endings. That's usually how I like to do it. So I don't normally have like a set ending in mind. I might be thinking like, oh, this would be cool, kind of like what Brandon you were saying, like a climax, or this is what I hope it goes to. But I try and kind of craft my story around the characters, and so a lot of my DMing and a lot of my story crafting is like session by session or like a couple sessions forward. It's always like a little bit at a time. I did talk to a friend once who said that she was doing Curse of Strahd, she was DMing it, and Strahd came to taunt the party, and within like the second episode they ended up killing him. By some way it happened. And so she had to kind of scramble and figure out how that story was going to progress. Like, how do you play Curse of Strahd without Strahd? You know, and at that point, all of your plans go out the window, including your ending, including your middle. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah.
So how did that play out? Like,
the curse part, bro.
What do you mean?
It was the curse part.
I'm trying to remember. I want to say there were like side NPCs that came in to try and like revive him, to go through like a ritual to revive Strahd and all of that, but it was not an immediate process. It wasn't like they came in and revived him. He was back, you know.
Piggybacking off of that, I had a group of people kill Strahd back in a different version of D&D, and they took over his castle. And then the rest of the story was other groups of paladins and clerics being like, "You're the villain, we're gonna kill you." And they're like, "No, we're not. We killed the vampires." They're like, "We don't trust you," right? And so they became sort of the villains of the land.
That's amazing.
That's
They became Strahd.
I love when players, like, Daniel, you're going to say something, but I just want to affirm, like, the when players throw wrenches and stuff. You just don't see it coming, and then you go, "Oh, okay, I guess that's the story now." You know?
Yeah, it's like, oh, you've done this? All right, let's figure out what that's going on. When I think they're when you're thinking about endings, right? If it's a pre-written adventure like Curse of Strahd or Wild Beyond Witchlight or Icewind Dale, the ending's already decided for you. Like, the end game goal is already chosen, and everybody kind of knows what the deal is. Like, you're from the beginning, you already know what the ending is, and so the ending, if you know where the party is going to head towards, and the party knows that too. So like when we did Icewind Dale, we basically just told everybody. We said, "Hey, you're going to do this. You're going to go try it. Here are the people you're going to fight. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go find the Lost Sea, Yithrin, etc., etc." And everyone knows what they're there to do. They're there to save 10 towns and do whatever. And so for those purposes, the ending's already kind of decided. So it doesn't really move so much. And it's all about guiding the players to the end point. But for homebrew games, when I begin the process, I think of the homebrew game in three phases. It's phase one, and I don't think about the ending until like the end of phase two, right? So in phase one, I try to help the players answer questions about who they are. Like, who is your character? What do they do? Where's their background? Are they on a personal quest of some kind? Let's go do that. Like, let's go talk to your dad. Let's go talk to your mom. Let's go find your brother. And that personal story that the entire adventuring party is going to resolve, that's step one. And once that's complete, and once everyone has figured out who their character is going to be, and not everyone has to go on a quest to do that, but you've spent enough time with the character to know who they are. Then in phase two, I look at the player, the things they've interacted with in my world, and what they liked and what they did not like. And then I try to present like 2 to 3 storylines that are all converging, not converging to anything yet, but 2 to 3 storylines to see what they like. And then we usually make that a solidified arc. And then we might do that one more time depending on how long we want the campaign to go. But there's some sort of phase 2 where characters, now that they know who they are, they establish who their party is in relation to the world, right? And then at that point, I start thinking about endgame, because I know who the party is, I know how they fit in the world, and then I say, all right, let's get into endgame, which is here's what the villain is going to begin its process to doing whatever it's going to do, and usually it's someone we've already met, and someone they've already been angry with or done whatever, someone who's already unaligned with their goals and who they are as a party, and the villain begins its process. And usually I can tell the players, like, hey, we have 12 sessions left. At the end of 12, that's where I take Jake's approach here, which is, hey, there's 12 sessions left. Here's what's happening in the world right now. That's how long you have to stop it. And then we go from there. And at that point, once we get to the quote unquote end game, that's where we go. But I never think about what the ending is going to be until we at least get through those first two phases, however long they're going to be. So I need to know who the party is, and then who they are in relation, or then how they relate to the world. Once I know those two things, and it feels like the campaign is ready to end, we'll go into phase 3. Am I getting roasted in the chat right now? No, just Christian's talking about Luden.
Well, yeah. Well, Rain had asked what that moment for Luden would be, and I was explaining to her how I had this idea of Luden taking to telekinetic, having my my longbow throw it up in the air, casting telekinetic, have my mage hand be invisible, catch it, and it starts spinning up above me as I pulled out 2 short swords, walking in battle, prepared to like kill somebody. Like, that was the Luden moment that I had in my mind. And after that moment, I would not be happy if he died, but he would have fulfilled his purpose.
Have you thought that maybe Luden just has the burning eyes and is like just choking and murdering Levi until he dies?
Yeah, no, it's different now. It's very different.
As the hand of retribution appears on his back. Like, is that like his purpose now? Is that the moment?
It's somewhere like that. I have to figure out a better ending on how to kill Levi.
I feel so attacked right now. Just
I will find it though. It's gonna hit me in a dream or something like that, and when it does, I'm gonna be like, that's the way we have to kill Levi. And he's gonna tell Esperise that too, so that we can work together for that big goal.
I would love to like talk about a different time, but villains, right? Because it sounds like we're setting Levi up to be a villain right now, right?
Oh my god, I can't wait for that.
Yes, and I feel like I like the balance of when GMs try to create villains versus when players are like, that's the villain and we don't like them anymore. Right?
DM's like, no, they're not. Yes, they are.
Yes, Cyprian at the beginning. Everybody.
Cyprian.
Straight up. Nah, I don't like you, man.
And I mean, I'll say for me, because I do villain-centric games, right? But to highlight the player's decisions, it's just the way that I frame kind of building the campaign. I feel like villains define so much of how players tend to start like trying to, with purpose, move through the world. And so it's one of those where you're like, you get hit or miss villains. And how do you do it? You know, is Levi dangerous or not?
Wait, why do you say he's dangerous, Luden? Christian.
Levi's Palpatine.
Levi was day one when he said that whole thing with Finn, like, would you, basically he was like, would you not, make sure that Cassius can't get his memories back? And I also have this favor I need to ask of you in the very future. Like, those two things,
He's a god. God asks for stuff all the time.
God can be bad. Level 20 bad.
A little shifty for a god to be like, yo, I'm gonna do this.
Look,
Hey, Jake. Okay.
look. Does anyone think they know what Levi wants? Okay, go ahead, Jake.
I don't care.
Go ahead,
Yes,
Jake.
I think I do, but
It ain't good, whatever.
I think that Levi doesn't care about any of the players and just wants to mess with them and do, their grand motivations, but just as a god, why do you care?
Mac just.
I have opinions, Mac.
Mac's like from the top rope. Like, all right, Jake.
There's my extremely uninformed outside opinion. I would love to hear everyone else's.
Yeah. So Danny, what do you think? What do you think Levi wants?
Okay, so I think there's a few things going on. Okay, so I do, Jake, okay. I do think that Levi wants to stop the 7. I think that's absolutely a goal in mind for Levi, and I think the reason for that is because if the world is destroyed, there's no more people to fuck with, okay? So we need to save the world so we have, people to fuck with. Second, I think Jake is right in a sense. I think he likes creating discord within the party because that's his thing. Like, he loves to just create conflict. That's what he lives for, basically. I mean, that's kind of seems like what he lives for anyway. But I think that there's something going. I don't know about this because I don't know if the campaign is long enough, but I think there's got to be something going on with the old gods and the new gods. I don't know why, but I have a feeling because we're getting a lot of different signs popping up with like Vera as one of them, and maybe that has something to do with it.
I have a theory. But I don't think I've shared it with Lauren, so there's no way it's true.
Well, Lauren's, watching, so he should share it with us.
Okay, all right. So I have a theory. I have a wild theory. Brandon, you go first. What do you think Levi's doing?
Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure what his end goal is, but I'm with Danny. I do think that Levi knows way more than we do about the 7 and all this other stuff going on and about Cassius and everything. I think he knows how things play out, and I think that while his motivations might not necessarily be evil, they are definitely self-serving. And I don't know how I feel about that as far as like what that means for the rest of the world, because as we see it in Big Brand and places like that, like when there is a power vacuum left open, it's not always a good thing, or not always a good person gets put into that position. So and I don't know, man, just the way Levi's been acting is been that after that scene where where Finn was like, I'll do whatever you say because you're my god, and whatever you say is what I'll do, and let thy will be done. I'm like, okay, Anakin, you better calm down. Like, let's go. Finn is one room of younglings away from being a Sith Lord. Like, I'll say it like that. Yeah, not really feeling Levi right now, but we'll see.
I love that, like, all y'all have these, like, overarching reasons not to feel Levi. And I've been given, like, the most personal setup of, this is just straight up revenge. Like, he could have, like, I'm gonna kill all these 7, but Levi has to die too. There's still 7 out there, basically. There's 1 inside of Urmir, 4 more actual 7, and Levi. So. Just gotta die.
And Levi.
And Levi.
What?
I can't. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, what? Oh, I was going to ask a question, but then you go first.
I have a theory, but and I think so. My theory is that I think Danny has the right of it, and I think that Levi has a vested interest in the destruction of the 7 of Severance, and just by their very nature, Levi's got this like. I think his root as the creator of the Master of the Weave, I think his relationship with the other Masters of the Weave and all the new Pantheon is such that he has the capacity to wield this kind of influence over like the material plane, where the other Masters of the Weave are kind of working on their own thing and doing their own thing, because they all kind of have jobs, except for Levi, whose job, like, he's like the god of change, and he's the god of kind of like chaos, and he's the god of like art, and art just gets created wherever, and like it's almost like a beauty thing for him. And like I think Levi he's a neutral person, right? He's a chaotic neutral character, but I think he has a vested interest in maintaining the beauty of Aurora. He doesn't want to see it destroyed. And just from a base motivation, I don't think Levi's against us. I think Levi has a vested interest in the Seven, and I think he knows something that we don't. And I think he knows something that we don't about Cassius. And I think that he's not going to share that. I think that we'll never know what it is. And I think that like he knows something that we don't. And because of that, I think he's on our side. And I think he's on the side of against the Seven. Like in some way he's against the Seven and against Ludin at the same time. But I also think Ludin's unfortunately extremely tragic because I think Ludin is collateral damage, which is very sad for Ludin. But
well, he basically said that he like raised Ludin up for this. Well, and we're not sure what the purpose is, but it kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
right.
It
Like,
was only gonna be 5 of y'all, and there had to be a 6. So he's like, I gotta go take his mom out.
I think it's-
Get his dad
like
out of the way.
Ludin had a family before, right? And then like so Ludin's dad is like his shadow and stuff, and like but like the shadow means something. Like how did the shadow come about? What is the shadow? I think all of those things matter, and they had to happen. I think Levi knew that, and I think it sucks for Ludin because I don't know if it's necessarily. I don't think Levi thought it was about Ludin, but now it's all about Ludin.
You know what they say: the ends justify the means, right, Christian?
Like
he's gonna die. I mean, you got okay. It's always the ends do justify the means, but you got to go with the consequences that you
Till it
cause.
affects you.
No, it's like okay, that's cool. You're gonna die.
I have a question. Oh wait, Jake, go first because I know you were going to say something.
Oh, no. Go with yours.
It's kind of like off. It's not about Libby. So are we done with Libby? Okay, so I have a question about like just ending characters and just like personality types and archetypes. So there's a lot of different characters to play, and I know we've talked about how like sometimes we get bored of characters and want to like go on to the next one. But do you feel like when you end a character, it's hard to play that kind of class or personality again? So I guess like Brandon, for instance. Could you ever play an artificer ever again and have them ever live up to like Uramir?
Live up to? I don't know. Like I try to avoid like ranking my characters like that. I will say I'm not gonna play an artificer for a while. Because you need that like because obviously it's like, you know, every time I see anything artificer related, I'm gonna think of Uramir. So, you know, I don't know what I'm gonna play next, honestly. I just know that you know, yeah, when it comes to I think it's important to give that character time, you know, because I mean I don't want to say mourning because that sounds like too harsh of a word, but like there is kind of like that, I guess, mourning period where you have to kind of let the character kind of like, even though the character's left the game, you gotta kind of like let the character leave your system too, you know. And like leave room for whatever comes next. So
follow up. What kind of character are you playing next? What class are you bringing back?
You know,
and then we'll go on to everyone else. But
I've actually been like messing with a couple of builds and stuff. I want to play a tank because like this is from like a meta-y standpoint. Like the party needs one. A big frontliner dude. No. And don't get me wrong, Samson is a fantastic take. Giant apes are super freaking dope.
It doesn't seem like you think that.
No, I just feel like Samson can offer so much more to the party than just like sucking up damage is all. Like
I don't know. I feel like Samson's one counter spell away from not being our tank.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's what I feel.
Samson is more like a utility support that's been shoved into the tank role, you know? And
it's true.
Like I think that Samson has more to offer the party is all it is. So I've been looking at a tank. Obviously I think I flipped the Knight of Cups, right? A super romantic type character or something. And so I've been trying to figure all that stuff out. Like, I don't want to play a barbarian, but then like we kind of already have like a big party, so a lot of the classes are already taken too. I've been kind of looking at paladin. I've been kind of looking at bard, because even though they aren't tanky, they can still like help out the party a lot and stuff. I don't think I want to play a caster. But yeah, that is a long way of saying I don't know what the hell I'm playing next, but those are the ideas rattling around up here. So,
look, man, Bluff's absolutely right. Like, first Esperise comes in, it just does everything Samson does, but better socially, and then like support wise. And then now Uramir's gone, and like the tank role that Samson carved out for himself is like, I'll be useful here. And like here comes walking in Uramir 2.0. He's got a full plate armor and an animated shield +1. Like,
Look, nobody can throw a party like you, okay? So
true.
That's his only job now, is to make everyone
Brandon,
happy.
do not make a character who can throw a good party.
So he brings a bard. Who's a great tank. It's like,
And Samson's just like, yeah, that is one of the really big struggles about like bringing in a character this late or this far into a campaign, is that a lot of the roles have been like established already, you know. And
yeah, if you brought in anybody with distance, Ludin would he'd be like, he's not in the party. And then he's like, Brandon, you gotta go roll a new character because Ludin's not letting you in the party. That's my job.
It's like the big thing I've been trying to get is like I want this character to be like a protector, right? Like that's kind of like the motif that I'm going. But because honestly, like Danny, I looked at cleric, but I was like, well, because I feel like there's a lot of variety in clerics, but I was like, well, Finn's a cleric though, so I don't want to step on Finn's toes. And then like Loon's the fighter, and we've already got a druid, we've already got a sorcerer. Like a lot of the stuff has already been taken, and that's not even talking about like personalities and like what role they're gonna fill in the party, because all that stuff is kind of important. Yeah, it's
good luck. That's what we're gonna say. Good luck.
It's definitely been challenging. I haven't nothing's coalesced yet, but there are ideas rolling around.
I think that's one of the biggest challenges of coming in when you make a new character in a campaign party. Anyway, I think you nailed it right with Brandon, where it's just like, how do I not step on people's toes, or how do I highlight someone else now that I've like had a chance to have a character kind of come and go? Good luck.
Yeah,
I love the idea that you're going to be a romantic. I think that's going to be really fun.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be great. He's gonna be. I know Uramir's story was monopolized by like his trauma and survivor's guilt, and his was a lot more visceral and grounded. And so with this guy, I want to kind of take it in the opposite direction and make him a bit more like whimsical and fun, and not whimsical, but like storybooky might be the right word.
You're a poet. I'm gonna love it.
We're waiting for the art.
I thought about it with the bard, because I was like, how do you do a bard without like being pigeonholed into music? And it's like he could like write poems and stuff.
Yeah, just do an Arthurian like bard paladin multi-class. It'd be great.
Be a sculptor and make a bust of every other one of the players.
There we go.
Don't listen to Jake.
Oh my gosh.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm sure your character exists in one of Finn's novels. He'll be like, oh my gosh, I know this guy.
No,
It is.
That's
gonna be Fabio.
For is I want him to feel like he came out of one of Finn's novels. Like, yeah.
So he's that kind of character.
Yeah, he's that kind of character.
I think when I usually don't play the same character. I don't think I've ever played the same class twice in a row. I haven't had a lot of classes, right? Like I've had a lot of characters, but I never play the same one twice in a row. And I just want something different, and I want them to feel differently. But I do agree with I know Brandon said it's not like, I think morning's too tough, but I think there is like an element of grief when a character's gone. I think you do have to go through it, right? And like it's not intense, you know, it's just a character. It's just an imaginary character in your brain, right? So they're not real, like you're not really going anything, but like in the game it is, and it's like you gotta play someone else and roll a new character and forge new relationships. And I think that's harder than anything else. It's like I think that's one of the hardest things to do in game, and it's one reason I really don't necessarily like doing it, like making a new character. Like I would almost, like if Samson were to die tomorrow, like next session, part of me is like, I'm not sure if I want to make a new character, because like first of all, I'm not a very good role player, right? So I think I would struggle bringing a different character to the party and establishing new dynamics. Like, how does a new character that I have interact with Finn? Like, Samson loves Finn, and he's so protective of Finn. And like, how could I bring someone in who meets Finn for the first time? And like, what if this new character doesn't put up with Finn's like naive bullshit? Like this, and like that's the way the new character is going to be. And it's like, how do I separate what we've been playing for a year and then bring a new character to it? I know that's something I would struggle with, and I think that's hard to do, and I think it takes time. Like establishing those new dynamics is hard. So for me, I think I almost have to play a character that's like the polar opposite of who I am if I'm bringing a new character to the campaign.
I think so. The way I like to do character creation is I want to have this character. Christian Hatcher would hate to hang out with him in person. Like, I would absolutely despise hanging out with Luden in person. I'm going to say the beginning Luden. I think now Luden, I could probably stand a little bit, maybe. But, like, I think that challenging aspect of it really makes me think about all of the decisions that I'm about to make and all of the things that, like, how he's going to interact with other players. Or they are going to interact with other players. Because it makes playing the character a lot easier, in my opinion, because it's so against the grain of the normal way that I would think in any aspect, that regardless, I'm hopefully playing them right, if that makes sense. Because if I hate them, or if there's just that one trait of they're so this or they're so that, or they're just too much this, like finding all the traits that I can't stand about some other person, I feel like those are the people, ironically, that you think about the most in your day. It's those people that you can't stand, and so you can easily play them. It's really funny because you can try and dissect every little piece of like, why would they do that? Like, it just doesn't make any sense why they did X, Y, or Z. And so being able to put those in game, and then finally, as your character grows to do whatever, you can coalesce and find their personality. In terms of making new characters, especially like with coming into other people's stuff, I could definitely see that being a huge issue. Like, the main reason Luden's backstory was 8 pages long was because when I was talking to Brandon about even what Fate's In was, because I binged every episode before I came in, and I had only watched like 2 episodes. I'd like watch y'all's beginning episode, and then I'd tune in every once in a while to watch more episodes when I was in college. And then when I was told, I was like, okay, I need to know all of the story. I definitely missed so many bits of it, but I got the general arc of what was going on. And then I wrote, the way I like to do it is, what was my character doing this entire time? Because the audience was able to see all of these characters grow I didn't come in, I think, until episode 15, 16. So that's 15 to 16 episodes that the audience was able to find out who these characters were, why they had these strong personalities, they had already these cool dynamics with each other. So for me, it was like, if that's the case, then my character needs to come in strong in something. I don't know what that is, but people need to have opinions about him immediately. Because then at the very least, I can have a general like litmus test of where he's going to have to work, and a general idea of where he can possibly grow with the party. And we were kind of able to do that by second session, because first session we almost died with El Bandits. But it's okay. So by second session, we were already like Finn was already like, oh yeah, but we're not supposed to tell Ludin that. And then it was already, and now here we are.
Bringing in a new character, building off of that, I think gives credit to like the difference between looking at you as a player versus a character, and as players kind of internally going, we will figure out a way to say yes to you coming back. And even if we don't necessarily like your character, or your character starts off having so many opinions and I'm not a huge fan of them, I feel like when we talk about kind of characters ending, when we talk about characters beginning or coming in again, right, Brandon, when you're going to bring in a new character, it will take the entire party figuring out how to let them in and let them be part of the story and build new connections. Because I think it's easy to like just reject them. And then that puts so much pressure on the GM and the person coming back to try to get them to be connected.
Yeah, that happened with Ludin a little bit. Not
Oh
necessarily.
yeah, he almost left. Straight up, I made him too. I made him too much friction. We almost set fire, but he stayed. Lauren did a really good job.
Samson was like, "Hey, Ludin, why don't you leave?"
That did happen.
I feel like at this point, Samson asking you to leave is like initiation. Like,
I got initiated first, though.
who was the other? Who was it? Was it? No, who was the other one that you were like, you can leave? Was it
Just Ludin? Just Ludin.
He told Roaring Bear that he should go home.
Yeah, I think he did.
Oh,
Yeah.
Roaring Bear. Okay, yeah.
Because like Roaring Bear had like a family that he was looking for, and they were completely outside of what we were doing. He was like, "I must find them." I was like, "We're not gonna find them where we're going, buddy." Like, if it matters to you and that's cool and that's what's important, and I think that's why he did leave. Like I think that's why Roaring Bear left the party. He's like, "I gotta go find my family." And that's what he went to go do.
Samson's just that good of a judge of character. He's like, "You're not built for this, son."
Yeah, it's like you done. Oh, you got like connections of people you love. Why don't you get the fuck out?
But it does make it like that much better, the fact that we were able to get over that hump with Ludin, in my opinion, because I knew there was gonna be friction, and I was like, okay, this is gonna happen. I didn't know how bad it was gonna get, but the fact that we got through it makes Ludin that much more grounded, specifically to this party. Like, it's gonna be real hard for Ludin to ever leave like the group.
Because he's not ever going to leave the group.
Yeah, no.
There have to be endings,
right?
so
Why you gotta say it like that? Like,
he's probably still gonna be like in his house. I don't know if he's gonna grow up to be the Meisner anymore, like the get off my lawn guy, but there's still potential. He might still have his shotgun, get off my property.
Look,
at the very end of this campaign.
Christian, look, let's be honest. Ludin's a ranger. He's gonna die in combat one day. Like, he's just not that good at it. So,
let's rewind.
He's a ranger. He's just gonna die.
The freaking last fight we did, he had to take me out first because I did like 80 to 90 points of damage in the first round.
Damage.
And then he did take you out.
Oh, and guess where you were? And guess where you were? In the illusionary flames. In the illusionary flames. I was over there taking on I was taking on like 3 or 4 different people.
Yeah.
And you were supposed to be absorbing damage.
Yeah,
Where were you?
Yeah, you got it. I was saying, you sussed it out. That's my point.
Okay, whatever. Ludin is gonna make it through this campaign just to spite Samson. Just to spite him.
Hey,
look, Hurry is
too,
gone. I can put Death Ward on Ludin now. Okay, it's okay.
Bringing it back for just a second, as we Death Ward Ludin, and keep Ludin from going down turn 1, is I think GMs give us a lot of quests, right? But when you bring in a new player, I'm gonna frame it this way because I was just trying to think about how I would describe it. Is all the other players need to sort of give micro quests to that person of, here's how you can ingratiate or connect with me, right? Here's something for your character to think about that can help you and me build our relationship together. And it doesn't have to be super transparent or like out there, but even just saying, Samson, who might just judge everybody as they come in, right? That sounds like what you're doing, Samson. Don't give me that look.
No, don't even like entertain his looks.
My
it's
apologies.
the truth.
Yeah. So when
Samson is like Shang from Mulan. He's like, you're not good at this. Like, why don't you
Gotcha.
go home and then digress.
So like, is it if when Brandon, you bring your new character in, right? Is Samson? I'm just using this example. This is not necessarily it, but it's like, hey, welcome to this party, but I'm watching you to see where you're going to like fit, right? And I'm the tank. I'm the big gorilla tank. So you watch yourself, right? And the second Brandon's new character shows off their rad tankiness and protector skills, right? It gives a reason for Samson to like then later go, nice, but I'm still better than you, and so don't worry about like. But does that make sense? Like, that's what I'm just thinking through, is like, how do other players guide that person into reconnecting to the party?
Yeah.
Like for Ludin, how does Ludin connect to all the people?
It is cool, and that example that you just gave, I don't know why Toy Story popped into my head when you were like, but that's what it reminded me of, right?
Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah, Buzz and Woody, right? And I think that goes to like, when you're creating your character and you're bringing them into a party, like, especially when you're bringing them into a party, like knowing you, like Christian, Ludin had a 8-page backstory, but I think it is because you have to do a little bit more legwork because you're coming into a group of realized people, right? Like, they've already been established, they've already had all these experiences and stuff. So you have to create a character that can come in with their own, not only their awesome, like you said, Jake, their awesome protector skills, but like they have to have flaws too. They have to have really strong convictions about certain things, because I feel like a good character is also going to come in and challenge the party in new ways, just as they're trying to figure out kind of where they fit in. I think a good character would kind of like stir the pot a little bit, to kind of also help the party kind of make room for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love the idea that your new character comes in and goes, so hold on, let me get this straight. Your god did this to that guy, and you guys are still talking?
Are just cool with that?
Seems a little weird, right?
Luda would sit there and be like, you know what, you're right. Come over here. Let's talk about it.
And then goes to the other two and goes, so that guy just turns into a monkey and sits in a illusory fire, and you're all okay with that?
Yeah,
like, what is that, right? Like,
it's like, wow, you're just saying some good things. We should be quiet. We like
creating
you.
shit when you walk in.
but lighthearted. But I agree with you, Brandon.
Is
Yeah.
that lighthearted?
Well, like, I'm just saying, like, the best relationships between characters always reveal things about either side.
Yeah.
So, like, I think that was a cool thing about Uri and Loon's relationship, is their whole roller coaster, because I feel like their friendship helped both of them grow in different ways, and I think that's super, and I think that's also super important, is like, making sure that you create a character with enough depth that they don't become one note, and that they're also able to appropriately interact with the other players.
I love the like, hey, I know that guy thing. It's like, hey, I like the character you bring in is an old family friend, or they are a brother, a sister, they are a cousin, they're someone from the same place. Like, you just have some sort of, or any sort of connection to a current party member, whether it's from their backstory or someone they mentioned before, or even like an NPC that you met at one point that you want to further explore, or you'd be interested in exploring, especially for the depending on the length of the campaign. Like, if you're near the end of the campaign, like let's imagine it's a 1 to 15 and you're at level 12, you really don't have time to bring in a new character. So it's like, hey, we're friends. I knew you in a past life. I knew someone in the past life. And so you learn about the new character through the context of someone who's already in the party. It like immediately establishes trust, does all that other fun stuff, and I think it's a good way to do it.
I like that as well. Having connections that kind of ease you in. I know that if Finn dies, I have plans for that, but that's obviously never going to happen. So.
What are you talking about?
that died. I think we lose tons of followers the moment that Finn dies. Like it's not Fate's End anymore. It's a whole different.
It's like Fate's End 2, the revenge of, or like the what is it, the
journey to get Finn from hell, basically.
Yeah, the revenge.
We all know that Finn's the real main character. Just like Levi's the real big bad guy. Like, this is all just Finn's story.
So what we're saying is that if Finn dies, the show is finished?
Oh,
God. All right. So is there anything else we want to talk about tonight before we get out of here? Can I ask this man to mute? How does this work?
Host, you can force me to.
Force me to just like kick from the chat.
No, but I like that. I like that method of bringing in somebody who is even like, honestly, like we've seen so many NPCs so far. How cool would it be to come in as one of those NPCs?
Mm-hmm.
You know, or to come in as somebody who we might have encountered in the last, like Dick Brand.
Yeah. What you think about a rogue? Or you want to play Cyprian?
A rogue?
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, maybe. See, and that's another thing about like bringing in, because we talked about it briefly, like, right, like playing one, like, but I feel like playing a character that's already been like established is also a tricky, because you want to do the characterization justice, you know, but you also want to kind of like have the freedom to take them in a different direction if you want to. So
I think that's also it would be hard as well, in the sense of more information than all, and you're gonna have to like either tell all of us that at the top, or later on, like 15 episodes down the road, we're just gonna look at you and be like, why didn't you tell us this at the top? Like, you knew this. No, obviously you knew this.
No, yeah, it would have to be a minor NPC, I think, that, because I'm sure Lauren also has plans still for Cyprian.
Yeah, if I'm playing like Cyprian or Cassius or something, Lauren, you're gonna have to give me like
Cassius.
a of notes and stuff. You already know I'm not good at this crap, okay? I know the big picture.
He's awful at remembering.
It's gonna be all these little details. Like, who is this?
This person has blue hair. Blue hair, Brandon? Do you? He's like, let me check my packet real quick.
Brandon would have to have like a laminated sheet.
Cool, like, they get to make decisions with their own body. That's awesome. Blue hair, I love it. I can believe it. And just keep it moving.
Lauren says, give Brandon key information that he will immediately forget. Aww.
Damn. Okay.
That is incredibly accurate.
You should play a character with like amnesia in the next one. So it's like,
Brandon just shows up every session the whole time. Like, never. He's like, where are we? I forget.
You need keen mind, Brand.
No, you didn't.
Just go to get keen mind, and then you'll be fine. Because then you could just ask Lauren, hey, has it happened in the last month? You have to tell me.
Terry, Brandon, really?
Terry.
No, that's bullshit. I said Rue.
He did say Rue, and then Lauren was like, "What's his real name?"
Tried to give me a bonus question, like, "Okay, but what does Rue stand for?" I'm like, "You didn't tell me that."
It was on the map, Brandon. You should have read the map.
Would you? I want to put together a Jeopardy game for the Fates End cast, and I want one category to be names of NPCs, and only you can pick those numbers and try to get those points.
So hard.
The bonus category, Brandon's.
No, and I feel it's okay. Listen, first of all, Fate's End is a dense ass campaign. Okay, there's a lot of stuff happening. All right, first of all, and second,
we need a wiki.
And we do. No, really. Like, this is one of the longest campaigns I've played. And it's not to, it's not to like discredit any of the amazing characters and awesome hard work that Lauren has put into it. It's just so much, and I take really shitty notes. Like, really, really bad notes.
You guys are taking notes.
Ask me if there's been timestamps for the last 4 episodes. There hasn't been. I've just been freestyling with the recaps, bro.
Get CPAD.
You guys are taking notes? Okay.
So it's definitely a me thing. No, but that's just something as a player. Like I play in the moment. So like I'll I remember important stuff, but like but like the way Lauren tells the story and the way that I play the game don't always jive, because she likes to take stuff from like 10 episodes ago and be like, that was a key thing that was important. And while that is super cool to watch, it is so nerve-wracking to play, because it's like, us remember, I bet that's going to be important. Is this going to be on the test later?
Brandon's just like, is that foreshadowing? All right, what, is that reincorporation? What are we doing?
I like it out here, Daniel. I got to have all the information.
I will never forget when what was it? Ermir was talking to Crick, and Lauren was trying to be like, paper, pen, paper.
He's just like, I can't. I don't have a mouth. And Brand's like, what about sign language? He's not deaf.
So good. It was so good.
I don't know about you all. I'm kind of with Brandon here, where when it comes to a longer campaign, it's hard to keep things track, and it boils down to, I don't know for you all. For me, I just do tropes. I'm like, all right, that's the villain, that's the supporting actor, that's the lead actor. Like,
yeah.
And I say goober a ton. I'm like, that's a goober over there, whatever. Like, yeah.
Sometimes I write down a whole bunch. I think the notes become more important within like the 2 or 3 episodes after it's happened. When it's further down in the campaign, I actually find it easier to remember like what who that person is based on like where we met them, and be like, oh yeah, so if we're talking to this NPC and they start describing some person that's like a dwarf from Digbrand, then my mind just goes to all of the encounters that we had in Digbrand, and I just think of all the somewhat important ones, or at very least like, okay, so I know it's not this person, no it's not this person, no it's not this person, it's probably one of these 3 people, and then as I keep asking questions I can probably figure out who it is. Or we have like the strategy where we have how is this character important to whose story? Because then it's like, okay, well, if it's not important to my story and I know this person is really drawn towards this person. So, for instance, if I were to say Doorman to Uramir, he immediately would know who I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't have to remember that dude's name, because Uramir is supposed to remember that dude's name. That's Uramir's.
I do remember.
What's his name? What's his name, Brandon?
His name was Gregor.
Damn it, he's right.
Do you see what I mean? That's the way I try and do. And then there's also Deanna. Who tries to do everything. Tries to predict everything.
Look, I used to take notes for the whole party every campaign.
Gregor Rockbane, Lauren.
Look,
It's been redeemed.
I usually do a really good job of just remembering things. Something I never took notes at school. I still don't. Because there's no reason. It's just school. And but in D&D, I started taking them for this campaign because all right, if I ever need to, I need to be able to remember. I know it's gonna be a long time we're on stream. But then Deanna joined the campaign, and Deanna has this steel trap of a mind for recalling stuff, and so now I just don't even bother. It's like, well, if I don't remember and Deanna doesn't remember, it probably never happened.
That's because Deanna has a board on her wall.
Yes.
It's all the red thread.
She takes notes and she just remembers everything because she's just brilliant. So it's like, okay.
I wish I had
just do this
knowledge of our games like that, because I'll be watching we'll be in the game, and then Lauren will say something, and I'll just look, and Deanna will just be like. I was like, oh,
this is important.
Okay, lock in.
But it's always funny when it's the thing that she hasn't told anybody yet, but that's the final thread that she was waiting for, and so we're all just looking like, I hope she's just gonna tell all of us what we're missing right now.
Do you all ever feel like your memory is just going because you played too much D&D? So I jokingly say I can't remember most people's names because most of people's names are going to be things like Dorian Mandrake, right? Or I've lived 20 lives because I've played long-term D&D games. So all of my facial or name memory is characters.
Yeah. You only know who they are in the context of the story.
Yeah.
I thought Jake was about to call us all old. Do you ever just feel no? But no, names are really hard. Names are super hard. I feel like for me, it's hard for me to remember things in my inventory. That's the worst.
I used so when I used to work at a bank, right? Like opening checking accounts and stuff. And one of the things that I practiced it every day for like 3 years, was recalling people's names. And so now I'm really good at it. That's it. Because
it helped you with D&D,
yeah,
which ultimately...
that was really the purpose I was at the bank for. It wasn't the money they were paying me. It was like, how can I get better at remembering NPCs' names? Player names and things like that.
It all comes around.
Yeah.
This might be weird, but I just keep a list of like the context in which I meet people and then the person's name.
Oh, that's exactly what I do.
And it's just on my phone. So before I go back to that yeah, in real life. And then before I go back to that context, I go through the list and I go, who am I going to potentially meet and who do I have to remember?
That's brilliant.
Is it organized by like place?
It's organized by, yeah. So basically, like there's one that's like dog park nearby the house, right? And then it's everybody I met at that dog park.
Oh,
wow.
That's really organized.
But then it gets dicey because somebody like, Danny might come up to me and be like, oh, hey, I'm Danny. There's like a 1 minute window for me to retain that while I'm still trying to talk to you. So I'll just be like, somebody else distract Danny for a second. I have to write this down.
But do you remember their dog's name too?
Oh yeah, I'd take dog name owners.
You just take their dog's name and be like, oh, you're Sparky's mom.
Yeah.
There you go.
I love that that's what you do, because I definitely just try and make myself as memorable as possible, so they know my name. Because then if they know my name and I'm very memorable, I can just be like, hey, what's up, man, dude, person. And if I keep interacting with them in life, I'll get their name. But if they're like an NPC in my life, then, they'll know my name. But at the end of the day, like, I'm not going to be seeing them for a couple of years or X amount of... So it's like, whatever. It's not like we're going to be talking. And if we are talking, your name will come back up. And I'll just be like... Or I'll hang out with a bunch of folks. I'll be like, just waiting for them to call you. And every time somebody calls a name, you just look over. Are they looking? Are they talking?
Did they respond to that? Like,
that's the one.
That's too stressful for me, bro.
Why is it too stressful?
I've got too much social anxiety because, like, if I don't, I'll just be like, "Hey, you guy, person, my
go-to is
you."
My go-to is friend. So I'm like, "Hey, friend." Like, hey, friend. Like, if I don't know your name, that's what I go with.
Daniel, you said that to me earlier today.
Oh my god, friend.
What's going on?
That's crazy.
Oh, hey, friend.
That's how you greet me every time we meet.
Because we're friends, Brandon.
Daniel, what's my name right now? First and last.
Look. That's why
it says Zoom. It says it right there.
It's like, Yes, you gotta do it. That's why you gotta do it to everybody. It's like, I don't remember their name. Hey, friend. Hey, friend. Hey, friend.
No, I'm the exact opposite. Like, when I meet someone, I'll be like, hey, my name's Brandon. Oh, hey, my name's Jacob. Thank you. I will ask you again next time because I suck with names. Know that about me.
It's like, here's my name. I'm going to forget yours. Let's do this.
Yeah.
We live in a generation.
Feel free to forget it because I'm going to ask you the next time I see you. So.
We are approaching 2 hours here, people. So excellent effort, everyone. Is there anything anyone wants to talk about before we get out of here? Closing remarks. Concepts, anything you want to talk about as it comes to ending campaigns or ending this like our episode today?
Can I just say congratulations, Brandon?
Yeah, congrats, man.
Oh my gosh, thank you. And it was a team effort, and that's actually one of the things I was going to say is like, remember D&D is a collaborative storytelling experience, and 9 times out of 10, especially when you're DMing, your players will tell you what they want to do. Yeah. Whether it's directly, whether it's like, away from the table, or whether it's through the actions of their characters. And I'm the type of DM where I don't like to tell people no. Like, I like to reward my players for doing stuff and interacting with the story because it is a collaborative storytelling experience. Like, so, and when it comes to endings, just listen to your players. That's my number one advice to any DM, young, old, new, seasoned, whatever. Just listen to your players because ultimately it's for them. And if your players are having fun, you'll have fun. And if everyone's having fun, it's a successful Dungeons and Dragons game.
No, there's nothing else I can say. That was great.
Great advice.
All right. Mic drop. Bow. We'll see y'all on Monday.
I think that's it. Danny, do you have anything?
Only to let the audience know that this will be our last short rest for a while. We are going on hiatus until early next year. But we still have the other shows to look forward to. Yay!
Yes, absolutely. So, so the next time you will see us is Monday for Fate's End. We'll be there. Everybody here except for Jake will be on Monday for our homebrew
Jake, you
episode.
can come
of Fate's
too.
End.
You can just be in the chat.
Just be in the
Well,
Jake's
Brandon,
chat.
are you gonna be there?
Oh my God, Brandon's not.
Yeah, you're not gonna be there, bro. What are you talking about?
No.
What are you talking about?
It just hit him. He's like,
Yeah,
wait a minute.
You're gonna be in chat. That's where you're gonna be there. You're
Oh,
gonna be
wait.
in chat.
We will be in chat. It'll be fine.
A wave just went over Brandon's face. Was like, oh my God, Iron Valor just ended, and I don't have Fates in next week. I'm not even gonna play.
Yeah.
What am I gonna do?
Yeah.
What am I gonna do with my life? Like,
You're gonna study. That's what you're gonna do. You're gonna
You're
study.
right. I'm gonna study.
Study.
And I will be back. No, it's but Iron Valor, we are doing a like a little, I guess, reunion special. Not a reunion special, but like a season wrap up.
Wrap up episode.
Yeah. Next Wednesday, just to talk about like the good, the bad, the ugly, the red books, and the situation.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
Cool.
Is this going to be like a Iron Valor short rest type of format where you're talking about the game? Okay.
Yeah.
We might
super
release
chill.
it. We might just release it on the YouTubes, though. It depends. It all depends.
Yeah.
Well, we'll figure that out. You'll definitely see us Monday, 7:30 Central Standard Time for more Fates End, or for Fates End. You can figure out what's going on with Levi and everything else. Brandon won't be there. The rest of us will, and we're having a good time there. We're gonna explore Dawn's Rise. Maybe go to church. I'm gonna try to get with Finn's dad. It's gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be great. You guys will be able to see Luden post-traumatic stress. Oh, this could be great. This could be amazing.
Yeah. Then on Tuesday, Tuesday is the last episode of the round robins for the Twisted Veil. You can see myself playing Zach, or Bayou Boss, as the Bayou, as I play the 10 Thunders and everything else going on. So that happens on Tuesday, our Malifaux 3rd edition game. Last episode of the round robins, and then, like I said, the Wednesday episode of Iron Valor, the wrap up of Candlekeep Mysteries, and then so that's all next week. That's when you can catch all of us. Follow us everywhere at Ink and Lyre on all the socials. Support the show by following us or just telling your friends about what you've seen here and what you've enjoyed. That's the best thing you can do for us, honestly. You can also subscribe, but I mean, whatever. Let's see. We're on YouTube. We're all over the place. You can catch up on previous episodes. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you to Danny, Jake, Brandon, Christian, all of you wonderful people for joining us here for this DM roundup. I'm going to send you guys on a raid somewhere. I know we had to guide the raid over to Dr. Landonius, but they made their way over here. So we're going to go somewhere else then, and we'll figure it out. Contribute to the challenge. Let's get these Twitter accounts going, and we will see you all on Monday. Have a good weekend.
Bye, guys.
Bye.